Hello, welcome to the Hot Seat. I'm Martin Rogers, here with Professor Martin Lodge to discuss this week's budget. Welcome, Martin. So first of all, what did we learn from the budget this week?
We learned that the budget is inherently a political process. It is about pleasing particular electorates, and it's about delaying difficult decisions until after the next election.
Thank you very much. Was it a bit of a non-event? Obviously, it was a very political event. That's what the entire theme running through it was, rather than a outstandingly economic one. Was this a bit of a non-event, or was this a significant step down the road to May 2015?
Well, I think the one potentially significant aspect is a change in the pension system, and here the pushing of individuals that they can do whatever they want to do with their savings, something that operated in Australia before, or is operating in Australia. That might be something significant, but only time will tell. In other areas it was an event in the sense that it clearly allocated priorities towards those people who can afford to save, those people who work. It facilitates further a trend putting the people who own against those people who don't earn, and it is also a clear shift in environmental policy against the climate change policy of the Department of Environment and Climate Change. Energy and Climate, can I say, the Department of Energy and Climate Change.
So given that this is a very political event, what are the implications going forward, especially with 2015 and the election then?
Well, one will have to see. At the moment, it is the polls still suggest either a slight Labour majority or a hung parliament. However, I think this budget was also political in that it set a trap about the ceiling on welfare spending higher than the Conservatives wanted, but nevertheless this will be a permanent kind of problem for Labour. Will they say they'll stay within that envelope, or will they say we'll go above that, which then will invite comments and criticisms about them being spendthrifty and so on.
And what about economic competence? This is an area that has seen the Conservatives pulling ahead on that narrow measure of economic competence and Labour falling behind. Is this going to make any difference to that at all? The polls, the very immediate polls afterwards, indicate not. Do you see any long-term shift in that going towards the general election?
I think this will be interesting to see. On the one hand, one gets now the talk about the recoveries there, but at the same time one looks at the fundamentals and austerity is still forthcoming. Labour is saying people are still worse off than they were before. However, most people say people will decide how they feel about it far more closer in May. So it will be really a type 1 thing, whether Labour will be able to sustain and develop an argument about economic recovery, yes, but you're not feeling it, is somewhat questionable.
Just to pick up on that point, they've made a big point of saying that they've raised the personal allowance for income tax. There is some debate over whether this helps lower paid people as much as the government is claiming it to, that it does. So for the very poorest, is this a budget that really will help them, bingo aside?
And be a tax, yes, but no. I think well, I mean, to some extent, it is sort of the middle that will get squeezed by the tax allowance being compensated for, also by the reduction of the tax band. Whether there will be, whether the lower part of the income will benefit or not, I think is more questionable, because I think what has not been the story that has not been told is about the really tight squeeze about the non-ring-fenced departments. That squeeze will be far stronger and harder in the next Parliament. Most of the austerity measures have not yet forthcome, so basically public services will really be under squeeze in the forthcoming years, when, and I'm sure this will be after 2015.
So last night here at the LSE we had famous psephologist David Butler, who he said that from his point of view, the general election 2015 has 4 possible outcomes. Labour majority, Labour coalition, Conservative majority, Conservative coalition. He said that from his point of view, there's a 25% equal chance of each of these happening. Would you like to put your neck on the line and make a prediction for next year's election?
I mean, who would want to bet against David Butler? However, I suspect the structural support for Labour makes it more likely that well, less likely that the Conservatives will have even a slim majority. So I would either put my money on a Conservative, Liberal, Democrat coalition continuing, or another coalition or a very small Labour majority.
Okay, thank you very much, Martin. You're off the hot seat.